Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Globe Interview series. Joining me at the Paris Blockchain Week Summit is Kwame Rugunda, CEO at CryptoSavannah and co-founder of Tuzanye Gaming Guild. So hey Kwame, how are you?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
That's great.
So let's jump right into it.
Sure.
So can you tell me a bit about your background and your journey into crypto?
That's a good question. My background is in engineering, electrical engineering. And in 2015, I was working on a project with my co-founder called Noah. And we were working on a project for elections. So we're trying to build a platform to enable people better work with elections. And he asked me in that meeting if I'd heard of Bitcoin. And the context was interesting because he was talking about a technology which could help with elections. And so he asked me if I'd heard about Bitcoin. And I said no, which is the answer most people give the first time you ask the question. And so I looked it up that time and we went online. It was $333. And I said, man, this thing's too expensive. And that is almost everybody's first reaction. And so that was how we first dabbled into crypto. And so we realized that there were many people in our country, Uganda, who are trying to access cryptocurrencies, but didn't know how to do so. It was a very laborious process to get from your local currency into dollars, send the dollar somewhere in Europe, it's put on a platform. So it would take about 6-7 days. And so we first set up an exchange in 2016 to be able to allow people to get from their local currency, which is the Uganda shilling, into crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. And so that was 2016. And so we did that for about a year. Then in 2018, we hosted Africa's largest conference on blockchain, the Africa Blockchain Conference. And we had Binance as a key speaker. So CZ came and spoke. And when he did, it was a great event, but the results from the event were also really great. We set up Binance Uganda then. And since then, we've been building out a series of blockchain solutions, both products in the market and then projects with government. So we have products in project in identity, products in finance, in agriculture, in real estate, and now blockchain gaming specifically. So I've been in the industry for a few years. I also chair the Blockchain Association of Uganda and sit on the World Economic Forum Future Council on Cryptocurrencies. So I have some time in the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of experience as well.
Yes, experience continues to grow.
So you mentioned your role as the chairman of the Blockchain Association of Uganda. Can you tell us a bit about this?
Sure. So as the association, what we strive to do is to work with the regulatory bodies to put in place favorable policy that supports the growth of the industry. And so we pull together different actors and players in the crypto industry. Those who are building solutions in fintech, those who are trading, those who are doing various solutions in blockchain, whether it's with identity or traceability or any services. And we come together as an industry. And then we engage with the government and say, this is how we think the sector should be regulated. These are the type of policies that would be in place. And so what we strive to do as an association really is to grow the industry in the country. And we also work with other blockchain associations in other countries in order to address common issues, whether those common issues are policy, whether those common issues are Ponzi schemes, because it has been a big issue in the industry, and various others. Currently, there's big discussions on central bank digital currencies. So areas of commonality, we work with other associations as well.
Can you tell us a bit about, one, the public sentiment, and two, the governmental sentiment on blockchain within Uganda? And how does that differ from, the rest of the African continent?
Okay, so I'll start by talking about the African continent. There was a report by a famous group known as Chainalysis. Chainalysis is one of the more reputable research groups in the industry. And so they released a report, its most recent report for 2021, that spoke about Africa having a crypto adoption growth rate of 1,200%.
Wow.
And so there is an extremely high adoption growth rate. And that is largely driven by the fact that there are very many young people hungry for opportunities and digitally savvy as well. So as a continent, there's a boom that is going on. And fintech, a lot of people have access to phones. And so they're able to use their phones and see what else can we do? How can we earn an income from them? And so they're dabbling into cryptocurrencies for that. Now, that's at a high level on the continent, on the private sector side. On the industry, on the government side, it varies. So different countries take different positions. Many countries, in relation to blockchain as a technology, are generally open. They're generally open to seeing what these technologies can do. In our country, Uganda, there's actually a favorable environment because our body that handles anti-money laundering recognizes and asks crypto companies or companies that deal in what are known as virtual assets, so virtual asset service providers, to report to them. So that's a very good thing. It's a great thing to have a body from a government that can take such a step, because it begins to put regulatory form onto the industry. Aside from that, we have the central banks and then the equivalent of the securities exchanges. So different countries, the regulatory role revolves around those bodies. Some countries are hostile, some are friendly, some are open, and many are sort of sitting and watching in relation to cryptocurrencies. So you generally find that many governments are open to the idea of blockchain and what can blockchain do. But on cryptocurrencies specifically, there is, which is an application of the technology, there is mixed reactions from, like I mentioned, one extreme to the other, and majority in between, who are saying, let us instead research this. Let us take more time to understand it first. So that is an overview of the landscape, both private sector and government.
So what role do you see blockchain taking in Uganda in the next 5-10 years?
Blockchain has taken, there's been an increased interest. I mentioned to you a few minutes ago that we hosted the largest conference on blockchain in 2018. And then we hosted another one as well in 2019. And the purpose of these events has been to raise awareness about the technology and ask the very specific question, what can this technology do for Africa in Africa? And so we've been able to pull global players, particularly tech companies, leaders on the policy side, to be able to have this conversation and then translate this conversation into action. I would say that over the last 3-4 years, since we began doing these events, we have seen an increased utility. So many people using blockchain for agriculture, for traceability, in the health sector, in security services, and so on. And I see this as just the beginning. I think it's going to increase significantly because blockchain is now mainstreaming. There's a whole new wave and iteration of the internet, known as Web3 now, where a lot of societies are moving to. And we're also seeing central banks changing their financial infrastructure and using decentralized ledger technology, which is, blockchain, of which is one, in order to create these central bank digital currencies. So having said all that, in brief, I would say that we have seen growing adoption, and we are likely to see increased adoption because of the ongoing mainstreaming of blockchain and crypto in general.
Thank you, Kwame. It's so exciting to see, the whole world is kind of maybe on the way to mass adopting blockchain technology.
Yeah. And I think an important point for blockchain players, those who are familiar with the technology and its application, is that ordinary people do not need to know how the technology works. Actually, they do not want to know how it works. They just want to see how it serves them well in whatever they're doing. And that is the bottom line. And we should constantly remember this. People are not really interested in how, the back end of the iPhone actually works or what you need to do in order to have a WhatsApp message sent. They just want to know that I can send my brother, my sister, my parent a message, and they will get it. So there needs to be an increased development of applications on blockchain platforms that solve people's problems. This is the most important thing, that bring value to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would you say the most useful or exciting use cases for blockchain are right now?
We have seen a major adoption of blockchain in the finance industry. And that is still, again, we're just scratching the surface. And at the core, let us remember that what blockchain does is that it enables for two parties that do not know each other to transact digitally. Now, that form of transaction could be monetary. It could be money. In this case, we're talking about digital value as money. But it also could be any other form of digital asset. And this is where the world of NFTs arises. And we're seeing things like land and so on, a lot of assets being traded digitally. But I would still see the finance industry as one that is already undergoing disruption, but is likely to continue undergoing disruption. And it's very relevant for finance because transactions are now able to be done a lot cheaper than they were previously being done, and also transparently. So because the finance industry has struggled with certain aspects like trust, it will be massively disrupted. So industries that struggle with trust especially will undergo this type of disruption. So finance, I believe, is still number one. And then there's going to be a series of others, whether it's identity, whether it is digital assets, whether it is property rights. So those are the top 3-4 that come to mind.
Absolutely. I can't wait to get like an NFT medical record, for example.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, right. So let's talk about CryptoSavannah.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about, what it is and what are your goals with it?
Great. So CryptoSavannah is our technology arm. We run a group called Savannah. And so we have a technology arm called CryptoSavannah, and then we have other arms to the business. Now, CryptoSavannah specifically is a tech company that is leveraging the capabilities of blockchain in order to provide solutions to society. And so we have a team that's developing solutions. We have teams that are handling projects with governments, and other teams that are handling products with for the private sector. It's a pretty big team. There's a team of about 25 right now of us here in Uganda. And the projects that we are doing have had impact already at a national level. So we have a project with our telecommunications authority that is handling, it's an identity project with government. Then we have a series of products that are being put out into the market. So we have an exchange, which is our core finance product, and that enables people transact from crypto to fiat and crypto to crypto, and do all sorts of things that traders require on exchanges. Then we have a product in real estate, which enables fractionalized real estate to be purchased. So I want to buy this building, and I can buy a portion of it in the form of tokens. And then we have one in agriculture, which is doing traceability, in order to enable, if I sit here in Paris and I'm drinking a cup of coffee, I can be able to see which farmer that coffee came from in a village somewhere in Uganda, and what went into that coffee. So that traceability is a big component of the agro and health industry. And then finally, Tuzanye, which is our blockchain gaming project, and which is actually what I'm here in Paris specifically to speak about. So those are the things that have been keeping CryptoSavannah busy.
Okay, yeah. Can you tell me more about Tuzanye?
Absolutely. So Tuzanye Gaming Guild specifically is its name in full. Tuzanye is a word in our local language in Uganda, and it means let us play. Okay. And so we saw the success of Axie Infinity in Philippines and a lot of Asia last year, especially out of the COVID pandemic. And so what we realized is that this type of opportunity can as well exist in Africa. We can create an Axie Infinity great story in Africa as well, because the dynamics are very similar. You have many young people, you have people who are digitally savvy, and people who are hungry for opportunities. And so the convergence of those factors is what birthed Tuzanye Gaming Guild. And so we as CryptoSavannah incubated Tuzanye alongside two other partners, Prometheus Labs, as well as Jenny DAO. And so we came together to set up Tuzanye at the end of 2021, at the end of last year. And so we started by, we acquired NFTs and hired a team of people to play. It was actually quite difficult initially. It was difficult because people didn't believe that you can pay them money in order to play a video game. I mean, it was outrageous, the idea. And so people thought that it was a scam. People were not really sure what it was. And so the first group of gamers that we hired was a bit difficult, the first 10. But then after we had 10 and they actually realized that this is real, they quickly told other people. Just like any communities, gamers know each other. So communities of different interests know each other. And so after the first 10, we had another 10, which was a lot easier. So we had 20. Then we had another batch of 20, a second group of 20, which was significantly easier. The quality of players that we were getting was a lot better. And so we began getting a flood of interest, and we grew a huge database. And we had a third group, and then finally a fourth group. So now we have 80 players currently in Uganda who are hired as full-time esports players, and this is what we're training them in. The model that we have set up is deliberately structured for productivity. So we do not have a setup where people gather around Wi-Fi hotspots and play, which is what we've been seeing with many of the other guilds around the world. What we're doing instead is a model that's slightly different. We hire people, we pay them actually above the wages. We pay them a very competitive wage in the country, about $200, which is around the wage of an entry engineer into a telecom company or someone entering the banking sector. And they're able to play these NFT assets and then earn in-game tokens, and then that generates money for the business, and then we're able to pay them salaries. And that is the model that we're using. It's been very, very successful in terms of productivity. We've just finished our first raise. We're going into a public raise pretty soon. And we aspire to grow from 80 to about 1,000 within the country, and then be able to scale through a different type of model, an offline model, to scale to various other countries around the world.
Oh, amazing. So what kind of people are you looking for to join the guild?
Okay, so we are looking for, let me tell you the profile of the current team members. The current team members, age-wise, let's talk about demographics. So age-wise is from about 22 to about 35. So there's many young people. That is both representative of the guild, but also representative of the country. So Uganda has majority of its country young, of its population young. 80% of the country is under the age of 30. And so there's many young people. And so by extension, the guild takes on that character. So we're looking for people who are digitally savvy, people who have a passion for gaming. It's important that one has a passion for gaming, because it's difficult to sustain yourself in doing something that you're not genuinely interested in. If you take on a job that you do not care about, you do not love, it's only a matter of time. The income earning opportunity can only take you so far. So we are taking on people who have a love for gaming and who have done it before. And so you find many people who fit that profile. And so we have a huge database of that. And that generally describes the type of people that we're looking for. Both young men, young women who are interested in this area. Actually, I'll remove the word young. Both men and women who are interested in gaming.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yes.
So far, are there any big milestones at Tuzanye that you've hit that you'd like to tell us about?
Sure. The first most important milestone was hiring the first person. That was a big deal. That was actually quite a big deal. So we were able to hire the first 10 people, and that was a really big milestone. I mean, it's just like when someone is beginning a journey, that first step that you take, and it makes all the difference. It makes you get over the inertia level. Mm-hmm. So that was one big milestone. The other milestone that I can highlight is the fact that we have been able to raise money. So we've just completed a private round in which we've raised $3 million. And we want to use the resources to enable us acquire more NFTs, but also be able to scale. So that's another major milestone, because it was the first of its kind that we have done as Tuzanye, and it's definitely something worth applauding. And so we recognize that as a milestone. I would say that another milestone that we're working on, we haven't yet achieved, is to have 50-50 male-female ratio of gamers. This for us is important because many of the gamers that we began to hire, again, are a representation of the natural character of society, meaning it is easier to find young boys going into gaming. It is easier to find boys more interested, more aligned to technology. And that is because of the historical structures of society. And so what we are doing is we recognize these historical prejudices that have left the girl child behind. And so what we are trying to do as Tuzanye is to play our part in order to rectify that. And so we have a goal, I'll let you know when we hit the milestone, of 50-50 male-female. Right now we're at about 60-40, and we are getting there.
Okay, you're close. You're close.
Thank you.
Yeah, when do you expect to close this gap by?
This year.
This year?
We have to close that gap this year.
Do you know what? So if I call you up and go, are you 50-50 yet? It has to be
ready for that call.
Okay.
I'll be ready for that call. Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the roadmap now. So this is less of like a personal company achievements, but more, technical achievements for Tuzanye. So can you tell us about, have you been meeting the steps on the roadmap so far? And, do you expect to meet them in the future?
Yeah. The steps that we had set out as per the roadmap, we have been meeting so far. The main one was for us to be able to do the raise that I just mentioned to you, which we have just completed at the beginning of this quarter. We actually aspired to complete it at the end of March, but we are completing the agreements in this quarter. Then we'll do the next raise at the end of the quarter. So that one is still on track. Another important aspect that we are working on is to have a creator economy. And that basically means that we want to not only have people playing the games, but actually get involved in creation of the games, get involved in development of the games. So that is another aspect on our roadmap. So overall, I would say that we have been able to do quite well regarding the things that we had aspired to do so far.
So what does the future of Tuzanye look like?
We're actually very optimistic because we have seen from the success that we have had so far in Uganda. And I'll base the expression of success on a couple of things. The fact that we have great full-time employees playing NFT games. The fact that their productivity is significantly high. And I use the word significantly high compared to the industry. Because the other model, the one we spoke about earlier, where people gather around hotspots or play in their free time, by default translates into lower productivity. And the fact that we have high productivity, that demonstrates itself in the output of employees, meaning the results of their games, the amount of scoring that they do. Those factors of success have been extremely encouraging, but they've also guided us on what to be able to do next. And by what to do next, what I'm referring to is even as we scale, we want to be able to scale on two fronts. The model that I've just described, when we have people working full-time, and now we're actually been able to do this remotely because the current structure, they work full-time, they are able to work remotely and come to the office once in a while for office check-ins. So we're scaling that to about 1,000. And then the off-site model, I've just described the on-site model, and those are our success parameters, success aspirations. And then the off-site model, similarly, where we want to grow. We have not yet doubled into it. We're just using a test group of about 20 people. And the success from that, we're also beginning to see. What we're working on is to tweak the model. The model requires some fine-tuning. When you're doing something for the first time, it takes a few iterations, a couple of iterations, actually. Sometimes it could even be many iterations in order to nail the model right. So we're doing that on the off-site model. So the success that we have had so far has given us encouragement, but also guidance on what to do better and what to tweak as we grow both models of the Tuzanye business.
So we've talked about, sentiment within Africa, but what opportunities can actually Africa bring to the world?
Yeah. That's a very important question. And I will circle back to the point I had mentioned earlier regarding the creator economy. The blockchain world requires people who can develop, people who can create the applications, people who can build these solutions. An important opportunity that Africa can bring to the world is to create an army of developers. And this is very possible because the population in Africa is young, like I mentioned. The case of Uganda with 80% of the nation under the age of 30 is representative of many, many countries. And so you have a very young continent. And the fact that you have a young continent that is hungry for opportunities, that is experiencing high levels of digital and internet penetration, that confluence of factors allows Africa to have an important place in creating things for the world. So the creator opportunity for blockchain, I think, is very good. I would also say that there's a lot that the world can learn from Africa. We have seen this in fintech. Mobile money has exploded in Africa. The idea of it arose because of a real need. People needed to transact and to give each other money, but the systems in place could not allow for that. They were legacy systems, they were old systems. And so we saw a revolution in which the legacy systems were leapfrogged, and people transitioned directly to mobile phones. And the fact that they've transitioned to mobile phones enables them to develop all sorts of solutions on mobile phones. And so that is one important lesson and an experience that Africa has gone through over the last few years that it can share with the world. So I would say that those are the two that immediately come to mind that Africa can bring to the rest of society.
Absolutely, thank you. So
Sure.
Yeah, it's exciting to see how this will play out, actually. Only time will tell.
Yes, but it's also exciting that we happen to be involved.
Yeah.
And so we're not watchers and bystanders and the audience, but we're actual players in the arena. And we hope that we can play our part well.
I wish you and Noah all the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I look forward to your phone call.
Yep.
I'll get ready for the answer. I'll go back home and work.
It must be a yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much, Kwame, for taking the time out. I'm sure you're very busy this summit. But I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.